All right, so you've got this beautiful day. You know, the temperatures are gonna be climbing 20 degrees above what's normal. Your wife wants you to mow the yard, change the oil in the car, do some honeydews, and you wanna go fishing. What do you decide to do when you get to the lake? Well, that's gonna make or break your success. Feel like it's worth getting in trouble in case the wife's mad when you get home. So, first things I like to do when I get my boat in the water is I like to look at the water temperature. You know, I've already got a preconceived notion based on the time of the year when I get to the lake what the fish should be doing. But by looking at the water temperature, I can confirm or deny my initial thoughts and my beliefs when I get there. And then once I start breaking it down further from there, you start moving around. I look at where I first started throwing just because I've got history there. When we first launched our boat, water temperature was dropping considerably, 52, 53. As I got out and fished more and more, pulling back into a cove that I know typically warms up more, it's almost 56, and I've got a temperature today that's gonna climb into 75, which tells me by the end of the day it should be 60 degrees. These fish should be moving up shallow. I should be able to catch them, but that's still a few hours away. So what do I do to start the day? Well, I can sit out here and throw a jerkbait or a crankbait or drag soft plastics, a lead shaker around some of this offshore stuff, some of the big timber, or I can go ahead and go to the bank and see what's there. That's sometimes the hard decisions that you have to make as the fisherman that make or break your successful day and make it worth getting in trouble or not getting in trouble for going fishing. Up here getting a sore neck looking at live scope. A few random fish. Wait for it to warm up a little bit and go shallow, trying to catch a big one. So far all we're doing is practicing casting.
After starting the day on some main lake points and offshore structure in search of those large pre-spawn female bass, Wade has decided to go shallow and try a place where he's caught them in the past during this time of year. The sun is higher in the sky now, temperatures continue to warm, and the fish are about to start biting.
And we went through this earlier today and didn't get a bite. I saw like two fish about the same size, and now the water temperature literally has it's risen almost 4 degrees. I've done this enough in this same area that I knew a wave would move up this afternoon. And you know, I'm not saying we're gonna catch any big ones, but we should get some action. That's our third bite in about 30 yards. So now that one could have been the same fish that actually bit me a while ago. So, because that was about the exact same spot that I missed him. Feels good to get a bite and land one. We are now 1 for 4.
Wade has started to dial in on a pattern, and after the break, we get back out on the water and continue the fish catching fun on Choke Canyon Reservoir in South Central Texas. Don't go away.
Be it rain or gusting winds, or whatever Mother Nature throws you. When there's fish to be caught, nothing will stand in the way. Bass Pro Shops Guideware features Gore-Tex technology with the protection you need from the elements, so you can stay on the water and catch the big ones. The all-weather, all-performance Bass Pro Shops Guideware, because there are no rain checks out here.
When there's miles of water in front of you and hundreds of feet below, you need a boat with the chops to dominate, no matter the conditions. With the strength and technology to overcome the elements and the competition. Ranger Boats, still building legends, one at a time.
You have a full-time job and you want to be a full-time angler. Don't waste time scouting. You want to catch fish. That's where Garmin comes in. Our mapping with Navionics data lets you see more detail than the fish do. It's kind of a big deal. Oh, and our industry-leading live sonar is so crisp and clear you'll think you jumped in. You're welcome. Now, if only we had a powerful, efficient, whisper-quiet trolling motor. Actually, we do. It's called Force. We knew you'd like that. Less time finding, more time catching fish. Only with Garmin.
Eliminating water is, we talk about it all the time, and we have for 20 years on the shows. It's such a key thing. And once you find productive water, trying to figure out how to get a bite is really key. And in this case here, I know that these fish really get out here and they love to, you know, feed up in the afternoons and warming days. I get in here with a swim bait and they'll chase bait around and they'll eat it. And it's a good way to catch them. And it's just about, you know, having confidence that everything else failed. I was going to come back to something that I knew would work because of the fish were going to move in here. They weren't here early. 5 more degrees of water warmth and they were all over this place. Get off there, fish. That's so fun. You know, we have missed far more fish today than we have caught, that's for sure. And some days that's just how it goes. And I wish I could tell you there's a reason why. Are you jerking too fast, the wrong color, the wrong retrieve? Sometimes the fish just need to go to an optometrist. I really don't know. But we have had, I don't know, 7, 8 bites now back here throwing this little swim bait on the flat. We're gonna keep doing it and see if we can't catch a few more. You know, reel-wise, I like to have a faster retrieve in this type of situation with all this cover. You know, you're making a long cast, and then once the bait hits the water, I want to get it moving right away. I don't want to give it a chance to bog down in the brush, bog down in the grass. I want to get it moving. Like I said, a lot of times I was throwing to 1 to 2 foot of water and then reeling back. And the Johnny Morris Platinum Signature Series has been a reel that I've used now for the last 2 or 3 years with a lot of success. There is a slower retrieve reel that's gonna, you know, allow you to fish in different situations, but most of the time, I'd say 8 out of 10 times, I'm using this higher speed retrieve reel in most of my fishing situations, and especially in this scenario here, where a lot of these fish are darting out through the holes in the grass, darting out from behind all the brush, and I feel like for me to win the battle, I've got to, you know, set the hook really quick, get them turned my way, gather a lot of line. That's the reason a high-speed reel that gathers a lot of line is beneficial in these situations, and get them turned my way. But as we've noticed, I sure have missed a lot of fish today. God, I lost him. Boy, these fish are coming in and biting so fast that it's amazing. And then, I mean, I'm missing more than I'm catching today. And some days it's the opposite. But really what I'm doing is, you know, I'm throwing a little big bite swim bait right here, and I've got a little weight on here so I can throw it a little further and keep it down about 1.5 feet. Most of these bites are coming in less than 3 foot of water around hydrilla and around sticks. And I'm throwing a pretty beefy setup on the rod. I've got a 7'4" rod here, and God, he knocked it all the way out of the water that time. And sorry, getting excited. And I'm throwing 40-pound Sunline braid, you know, to be able to turn these fish fast. I mean, there's times when I'll get in here and I'll throw fluorocarbon when I've got a little less cover than what I have here. But right now, with as much hydrilla as balled up in here and as many fish are in these sticks, I need to be able to really turn them real fast when I do get a hook into them. But right now, a lot of these fish are biting so fast that I'm missing them. You got that one. There was 3 casts in that spot right there, and I finally got him, a little bitty guy. I saw him over there on the top of that hydrilla chasing bait. They're blowing bait up, but that hook fell right out. So it's about matching all the gear to the right situation. And, you know, early on, I didn't even have this rod and reel tied on. I had to tie this setup on after we got over here for the afternoon bite. And I knew when I came through here earlier, I was like, this is how I can catch some later in the day. 2 at a time. Little bitty guy. Little buck bass. That makes it work good. We all 3 catch one. God. You can lie, yours was the biggest. Definitely bigger than mine.
It's time now for another break. On the other side, we take a closer look at the gear Wade is using in today's show. From the rod and reel combo to baits and even fishing line. We'll break it all down next.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower four-stroke, the Yamaha F25, the new standard in 25 horsepower portable four-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower four-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's VTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
We don't have a large laboratory to test baits. Why, you ask? We don't need a big laboratory because our pros fish, our employees fish, our owners fish, and our kids fish. This is our laboratory. Our R&D comes from time on the water. All that time on the water brings us thousands of hours of testing new products and improving current ones for all species. Big Bite Baits, designed to bring the big bite to your line.
One of my favorite techniques when fish are first moving up on lakes that have a lot of grass, that have a lot of brush around them, is to throw a swim bait around. And I think that technique and the size of the swim bait, even the action of the swim bait, kind of changes based on the mood of the fish and the water temperature especially. The water temperature when we got on the lake was, mid-50s, climbed to barely 60 later that day, and then quickly cooled back off as we were getting off the water. And in those types of water temperatures between 55 and 60, I like a tighter action, more of a compact wiggle to my baits, which is the reason why I was throwing that Big Bite Baits Finesse swimmer in this situation. That particular bait has more of a tight action to it. It kind of rolls when it goes through the water. And I found that size that I was throwing really kind of pays off in that fishing situation. And my rig, it was very simple. I mean, it's just a Texas rig, just exactly like this. And since I was fishing 1 to 3 feet of water, I was using a pretty small weight, as you can see right there. And then the hook that I was actually using was this Trocarp, and they call it the Big Nasty. And I like this little hook because of this extra little bend right here for that particular bait. I think that it really sets up well as far as giving it the action that I'm looking for. It gives it a little better ability to hide the hook point in there, because we were really fishing around a lot of cover. I mean, a lot of my cast, I was actually casting over brush, getting hung, and banging into that grass. And another thing that I've noticed, a lot of people will make the mistake, they'll grab too big of a hook. This is a big J-bend, and I use it a lot of times as well. But they'll hook the bait way too far, and it gets back to where it's actually interfering with the action of the bait. And when you do that, I think that you're basically causing yourself not to be able to increase your hook ratio. The overall setup there, I was actually throwing braided line, throwing 40-pound braid there from Sunline. I like to kind of throw about that class of line when it's that much cover and that much, things that my bait's gonna get into. But other times I will actually throw 16 or 20-pound FC Sniper, especially in real clear water and when I want to get that bait just a little bit lower. So when you start looking at the Big Bite Baits Finesse Swimmer, there's a lot of options on how to rig it and how to throw it. Golly, he's buried in the grass. I'm gonna have to go get him. He's not that big, but he got his head down in the grass. When they get down in that hydrilla, and this is a shallow hydrilla right here, your best thing to do is get right over the top of them and then pull them up. You can still see the fish right there. That's awesome. We're gonna power pole down. We talk about boat positioning all the time, and we're in the shallow stuff here, and caught two just here in the last minute. These are chunky little guys. Man, those fish are so strong. The thing about this kind of fishing, and we do this every year, come down, you get a warming trend ahead of a cold front. You tell your wife you're not gonna do honeydews that day because it's the day to go fishing. You save the honeydews for when it's a big bluebird and they're not biting. But in this case here, we've got a big moon coming. Water temperature has climbed 5-6 degrees just since we've been here, and there's a huge cold front coming in 24 hours from now. So it's the perfect storm to go fishing in the spring. Fish are gonna move up. They're gonna wanna get shallow. They're aggressively feeding right now. You can go shallow, throw swim baits, frogs. Guys that were fishing beside us were throwing frogs and they were catching them just as good as us, and just makes it fun. And then you can go home and beg for forgiveness from the wife and mow the yard on those days when the fish aren't gonna bite. So we're gonna keep chunking and winding and see how many more we can catch, and then beg for forgiveness when we go home. You know, when I look deeper at this specific bait here from Big Bite Baits, this is the Finesse Swimmer, and they also have what's called the Pro Swimmer. Now, to me, the Pro Swimmer has a lot more action to it. It's a little bulkier bait. I mean, as you see the ribs and the whole action of that bait, it really kind of goes through the water with a lot more action. The Finesse Swimmer, to me, kind of comes through the water with a little bit tighter action and maybe a little bit more side-to-side wiggle. A lot of guys will rig these on your umbrella rigs. They'll rig it on a straight jig head. For me personally, on this particular day, I was Texas rigging it, and in that situation, basically what I'm doing is just taking the hook, going in a little bit, popping it back out, running it around, and then back out through the bait itself. And when I do that, the next thing I'll do is I just let my weight, and I'm throwing a fairly small weight on today's fishing trip. And the reason why, we're only fishing 1 to 3 foot of water. I don't need to get it down. I want it actually in the upper part of the water column. And I want that weight not to be pegged in this type of situation. I like it to be just basically able to move like that. When I first hit the water, the weight's gonna make a splash, the bait makes a splash. A lot of the strikes come immediately on that type of deal. And then as I reel it, that weight goes back into the hook itself, and then when I get a bite, that weight will swing free, and it helps me not lose as many. Now, on this particular trip, I probably was only about 1 for every 3, 1 for every 4, and I think a lot of that was these fish just moved up into that water that day. A lot of times when they're doing that, they haven't settled in, and they're just slashing at the bait. And for whatever reason, it was a particular day that I was losing a lot of fish. I remember another trip throwing similar sized swim baits with Clark. You know, he was throwing a big swim bait from Strike King. I was throwing a bigger swim bait from Big Bite. I was actually throwing Sunline Sniper that day. The water was incredibly clear, the sun was out, and we were throwing over some of those holes, and I just felt like I was gonna get more bites in that type of situation versus the braided line. On this particular trip, the water had a little more color to it. There was a lot more timber that I was dealing with in there and a lot more grass, and I chose to use braided line. You have to kind of make those decisions as each independent day goes on once you're getting out on the water. There's a butter guy here. A relative term. Way at the end of the cast, that's even more fun. You know, you can see how thick this cover is. It's pretty thick. That's where the braided line comes in. You can hear it. You know, you get a lot of hydrilla to get it through as well, and there's no stretch. And sometimes that causes you to miss a fish because you'll jerk and there's no stretch and you take it right away from them. But when you hook them up, you can feel it and hear it, and you've got the power to get them in.
Attention anglers, are you looking for soft tubes or craws? How about big jigs, little jigs, and shaky heads of all sorts and sizes? Do you want some sweet swim jigs that you can take all across the country? When's the last time you stocked up on frogs, wacky rigs, or big old lead shakers? Maybe you just need a few swim bait heads, finesse jigs, and some good old stupid tube jig heads. You'll find all that and more fishing gear when you go online and shop the entire selection of Secret Lures now.
Things you let me see. Things you let me see.
You know, when you fish, it's about eliminating water and finding productive water, and sometimes that's hard to do. You know, you can come in with preconceived notions on where the fish should be, what they should be doing, and it's really difficult for a lot of fishermen to just, you know, scrap a plan. But You know, I look at today, what I thought I wanted to do, what I ended up doing and going back to, I went through this area fairly early in the day. And the water was clear, which I like in this type of situation. And, you know, but I didn't get any bites, not one. Came all the way through, fished all through there, fished all out there, came out there. I saw 2 fish. The water temperature is 55, but this was at like noon. And I knew today the air temperature was gonna get up in the 70s, and that should warm this little bay, and these fish should get, you know, fired up back here. So I left, and I went and did all kinds of other things. I dragged a lead shaker out on some rocks. I threw jerk baits in trees. I threw jerk baits shallow. I threw jerk baits in shallow grass. I threw lipless crankbaits. I threw chatterbait. I mean, I threw a lot of different stuff, and I couldn't get a bite, not one. And I decided to come back here, playing the odds that this would have warmed up. And I went in on a ditch that I know lays out over there, has some sticks in it. Bam, bam, got a few bites. There were some guys back here throwing frogs. They had a couple bites around us, and it just got better and better as the day went on. And a couple things that I look at in that situation is this is clear water behind all this hydrilla. The coots haven't chewed this up, or they chewed it up a long time ago, and now they've kind of not eaten back here and they're eating out there. The water temperature's warming, full moon. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to get these fish back here. Now, if I was fishing a tournament and I needed to catch 25 pounds, this wouldn't be the pattern. But if I wanted to get out and get bites and have a good time, this obviously was a great way to get a lot of bites as the sun, you know, kind of got up, and then as it's starting to go down now. So just because you ride off an area early in the day doesn't mean it's not going to be the place that you need to go later in the day. For me, now granted, I've got history in this pocket here. That fish is going so fast towards me. I've got history in this pocket right here, and I kind of know that as I get to the back of this time of the year, pretty good one, you're gonna see some cleaner water a lot of times. And some of that's from the coots actually coming in here and chewing a lot of that up. And you've got a wall of grass out there. And I know that these Florida bass, they love to find some clear water. So that gives me a lot of confidence. Then I also know that the grass doesn't grow everywhere. I've got to kind of meander through here around some of these sticks and these bigger hardwoods. There's not gonna be grass there. There's gonna be holes, there's gonna be trails, you know, little ditches in through there. And when I can hit one of those little holes, one of those clumps, and the sides of those clumps, a bass is apt to be set up there for an ambush. And that's all I'm doing. So yeah, I'm fan casting around, but there is a little bit of madness and a little bit of understanding to, you know, what I'm looking for.
That'll conclude this episode of the Bass Pro Shops Fisherman's Handbook. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to keep an open mind the next time you go fishing and read the conditions so you can be around the fish and get more bites. This has been a Carico TV production. This episode was made possible by these partners.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
From sun up to sundown, day in and day out, we work hard. We play hard. And to keep us going during those long hours, we demand performance. Angle Coolers, the original high-performance cooler.
Deep Creep, from the makers of Seafoam Motor Treatment. Deep Creep is a premium quality penetrating oil and lubricant. It works fast to break metal surface tension and crawl deep into parts and mechanisms. Use it to oil all kinds of mechanisms like gears, hinges, and chains. It frees stubborn parts from rust and corrosion. Lubricate and protect guns, tools, and stored engine parts. Deep Creep lasts longer by resisting evaporation and stays fluid under extreme heat for the toughest jobs. Deep Creep, nothing creeps deeper. Ask for Deep Creep wherever auto and hardware products are sold.
TH Marine has been producing top-of-the-line marine accessories to rig boats from transom to trolling motor for decades. From jack plates to fish care to LEDs, TH Marine has you covered. TH Marine, outfitting your boat from transom to trolling motor.